I'm Suzette Martinez Standring, your host of It's All Write With Suzette, a half-hour writing show on the craft of writing. Our question today is, in the long game toward retirement, how do you get what you want with what you have? And specifically, how does home ownership figure into your plan? And today we're going to welcome author Penelope Tzougros, who offers answers in her book, Your Home Sweet Home, How to Decide Whether You Should Stay or Move in Retirement, a most timely subject. Penelope Tzougros brings over 2 decades of experience as an investment advisor and is registered in 50 states offering securities through LPL Financial and financial planning through Wealthy Choices, a registered investment advisor and separate from LPL Financial. Welcome, Penelope.
Thank you so much, Suzette. It's a delight.
You know, your book is so timely, as I said, as many boomers like myself are now facing retirement, and home ownership is a very big factor. Yeah. So please tell us about your book and what readers can take away from reading and buying your book.
What happened to me, Suzette, is as a financial planner, my clients said to me, what do you know about these places that are age 55? What do you know about these, whatever these CCRC things are? What do you know? And I said, I don't know anything. So you ask me a question, I write a book. So what I started to do is research, because that's my strong suit. And what I found is that it's a big question, because though you may love your home, you may not be able to stay there. So how do you figure it out? That was my goal. How do I help you figure it out?
Well, I found your book to be so insightful because although my husband and I do not have any plans to leave our big ark at this time, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. And there's a lot of emotional feelings connected with the idea of relocating or possibly selling. For many people, they want to stay in their house and they equate it with being independent.
Yes.
Now, can you, your book has a list of questions that some people don't even consider when, you know, mulling over the idea, should I stay or should I go? Can you go over some of those great questions that are contained in your book?
A major thing that people are not thinking about is how expensive the house is, because the statement they'll make is, I can't live any place as inexpensively as this. Did you test it out? Did you do the numbers? Did you look at all the many maintenance issues that take precedent when you have a house? You have to clean the chimney. You have to do the gutters. There are tons of things that you do them once or maybe every other year, so you don't think of them in your budget, but they're real costs. When you put those real costs in, the house may not be inexpensive. And then with the rising real estate taxes, can you really stay there? How does that work?
You know, one of the insightful thoughts, concepts that I came away with is, you know, you asked the question, how much maintenance is involved in your house? Yep. And are you the kind of person who loves being the handy person? I want to do that. I can't wait to get into my projects. Or is the first thought, who can I hire to do this? Right? And what I found really revelatory was how much time do you devote to maintaining and fixing and keeping up your home? And if you didn't have that time, what would you pursue? What pleasure would you pursue as a replacement? And you know, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
You know, because part of retirement is thinking and envisioning yourself in what will I be doing?
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
That's
and
right.
so, you know, one of the questions that you also ask is, how does your house pass the test that you can stay there? And you bring up safety, maintenance. Can you address that a little bit?
Sure. Those are very critical things. I want you to have whatever you want. If you want to stay in that beloved ark, as you called it, then you should stay there. But the question is, can you physically, financially, and socially? So what we start doing is exploring the safety issue first. And we say, okay, safety-wise, is the house set up for the older you? Love yourself into the future and think to yourself, if I had a little trouble in the shower, I got a little unsteady, Are there bars? Is there some safety so that I can manage my own shower? If I needed to use a walker, or my spouse needed to use a walker, are the halls of the house wide enough for a wheelchair or a walker? Have you looked at older houses are not built for that. You can't make a turn with a walker or a wheelchair. The frames for the bedroom door are too narrow. So you have a real problem. It's hard to retrofit that. So you're looking at the safety issues. Then you're looking at utility issues. And you're thinking, can I really reach the stuff on the top shelf? Can I get the stuff out of the bottom shelf? Can I kneel down as easily as I used to be able to? And so the use issues come in. And then the maintenance issues that we've been talking about to say, if you don't maintain the house, do you know what happens? It loses value. And then at the point that you say, I can't take it anymore, I've got to sell this house. Guess what? It became a fixer-upper for the young couple that wants to buy it. You're not going to get your price. So the issue is, yeah, you can delay maintenance, but it's costly to your house.
That was very eye-opening because you said that if you do continual, regular maintenance, it actually adds 1% of the value because
That's right.
people see this house as beautifully maintained.
That's right.
And the minute they see the rotting window frames and all
That's
of
right.
that, your
Yeah.
price goes way down, which was a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
What I found so helpful is that you do a combination of checklists, charts, you do a lot of research and statistics, and you also have real life anecdotes.
Yeah.
Like one of the wonderful chapters that you have gave, I think it was about 5 retirement scenarios. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
We don't all think about the same thing in retirement. For some people, it really is just being relaxed. You're sitting, the cat's on your lap, and you save a little milk in the cereal bowl for the cat, and you're thinking about maybe you'll get started for the day, and, you know, very relaxed.
Not me.
Well, yeah, right. I can't imagine it myself. And then the other person is up and ready to get to the gym and go, do. So what I tried to do is show, well, what do you want for retirement? It's not one thing. Many of us have different things, and hopefully the husband and wife are a little bit more connected to what they want to do. But truly, what are we trying to fund? If you're trying to fund ski trips every year to exotic places, you need a different bank account from the person who says, I love to sit and read and write columns, and I can do that, and that is not a big expense. So what I'm trying to get you to do throughout the book is think about, who are you? What is it you want out of these years? Because the worst thing, the thing that I'm raging against in the book, is thinking you're over, that you're done. You're not over and done. And you're not living through your kids and your grandkids or your friends' lives. You're a vital person. Whatever age you are, claim your life.
Your checklists, I call them checklists.
They
but
are,
they're-
many.
And they are wonderful guidelines to help a person think through who they are and what their relationship is going to be with their future and their house.
Yep.
And
that's
you
true
have a
too.
chapter, I believe that it's entitled, that helps you go from I'm not ready to it's time.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about how your book helps you makes you bridge that?
Yep. I'm not ready is a fascinating statement. And I always think of peaches when I think of that because I love fruit. And in the summer, I buy peaches and they're rocks. So what do? You're supposed to put them in a brown bag and let them ripen. Okay, I put them in the brown bag and I forget to check them. So inevitably, they get overripe and okay, they're not peaches anymore. So what happens to people is when they say, I'm not ready, they're imagining this other thing, like a continuing care retirement community for old people who are infirm, and that is not what they are. So the person who's saying, I'm not ready, is saying, I'm not frail enough. That is not when you make this decision. You make it when you're vibrant and healthy. So the I'm not ready crowd is a crowd that you really have to talk to about what are you imagining for the rest of your life? Who do you think you're going to be? Do you think you have to be frail instead of, and then make a move? And you tell me, when you're feeling sick, are you open to more new things? Is that when you're open to them? Or when you're well, when you're feeling your best?
And in control.
Yeah. Isn't that a better time?
Absolutely. And you know, when you talk about your biggest financial asset for many people,
Yep.
your home,
Yep.
and it's stockpiled with memories and associations and all that
Yeah,
kind of
it
thing,
is.
right? There's a very powerful emotional component to letting go,
Oh, yeah.
possibly letting go,
Right.
or the possibility of retrofitting your house, whatever it might be.
Right, right.
And you address that in a chapter that's called Whose Move Is It Anyway? And I think it talks about the persuasion and influence that others have when they think it's in your best interest that you got to get out of here, you know, and how you navigate that minefield.
It is very hard because the adult child or the friend who sees an elder person alone is starting to say, oh, well, you can't keep doing this. Well, did they ask the elder who the elder is and what's important? So one of the things we do is we begin to disrespect people when they get older. Somehow there's a point at which your opinion doesn't matter. And what I'm raging about in the book is you make sure your opinion matters, and that takes your articulating it, which is why those charts exist, which is why I keep asking you, who are you, what do you want? Because I want you to be able to say it, so the person who's saying to you, you've got to move, you've got good answers. I've checked my finances, I've checked the house, I know what I'm doing, this is how it's serving me, these are the changes I'm making, and now you're again in control. And bless you, have a wonderful time in that house if that's what you want to do. But don't let it be somebody else's decision.
Your book is very organized and easy to understand. So can you talk a little bit, before we go on break in a couple of minutes, about the organization of the book and how you came to addressing those kind of issues?
It's
in the manner
interesting.
you
The
did.
book took a number of years to write because I'm working full time. So I couldn't write as many hours in any particular time. So there were chunks of time that I got to write, and then chunks of time that there was no way to get to the book. And I did a lot of research. You're right, I did a lot of reading. And I interviewed over 70 people for the book. So what happened as I was building that is I started with exactly those things that you said, what do you want to do every day? And then, okay, if you want to do that, where's the money going to come from? Let's look at the real money. How are you investing it? What's that about? So it was sort of a logical progression from, if this is what you want, how do we fund it? How do we make the house useful to you? How do we deal with the emotional problems that you're getting from other people and from your own heart about giving up this very special place? How do we do that? So it was a slow progression of trying to be in your mind and thinking with you. If I can help you see each of these in progression, that you can then come to an answer. So it's a slow process. Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the anecdotes came from your longtime practice with real life clients and their issues. And one can so easily relate to all of those considerations, debates, issues, I mean, I hear it all the time, all around me.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that there is almost the assumption that I sell my house, it's instant money, but there's so much more that goes into it.
Right.
And in a moment, we're going to return with Penelope Tzougros and find out more about her book, Your Home Sweet Home, which really will benefit so many homeowners looking toward the future retirement in their lives. And we're back with Penelope Tzougros, author of Your Home Sweet Home, How to Decide Whether You Should Stay or Move in Retirement. And I would like to take a moment to talk about specifics of chapters. There's one particular chapter that I found very enlightening, and it was called Whose Move Is It Anyway? And when you think about your adult children who have your welfare at the core of their concerns, and you talk about a person's own independence, this chapter, 7 Comprehensive Questions, was very helpful in the whole issue of move, stay. And I'm just going to give you just a few nuggets that I really enjoyed, that really got you thinking. You know, the who. The first and critical question is, who wants to stay in this place? And, you know, what can you imagine? And what would your future look like? What it would be? How would you see yourself opening the front door and stepping in? You know, I think envisioning is such a powerful process because most of us is like, oh, I don't want to think about it right now. And then, you know, another question is, are you the right person? Are you the patient one, or are you able to engage in the discussion from another person's point of view? Can you meaningfully say, I understand how you feel, to the person in question who might be selling their home? The question, is it so bad to stay? And what about what's your phase one plan? What is a more lasting resolution? You know, all of these questions have answers, really great food for thought in helping you formulate your own decisions and bringing up things you never even thought of before. Right. And you had a particularly favorite chapter also.
Right.
And could you share that with us, Penelope?
There's a chapter 6 that is a soiree. What I was trying to do with that, since I interviewed so many people, is I wanted to recreate the sense of you're in a big party, and you're walking around the way we do in parties with your little tidbits of food, and you're listening to a little conversation here, and you stay a little longer, so it's interesting. Then you move over there, you talk to that person, hear what they're saying. And I wanted to create that so that I could interrelate all of the people in the room. And you would hear one person's thinking about how they made the move or didn't make the move, and then another person's. And you're sort of bouncing those ideas back and forth so that you, as the person having to make a decision, begin to say, oh, I really didn't think about that. And one of the people who I found particularly fascinating, since for whatever reason, men don't often open up and talk about things. We have one man who says everything, including, you know what? My wife and I haven't spent 24 hours a day together except on vacations. She's still working. I'm retired. When she retires, how are we going to manage this? And I thought he was infinitely charming because that was a basic feeling that people say, it's getting a little crowded in here with the two of us. It's interesting. So there were lots of unexpected things that came from the wonderful people I interviewed, and I'm very grateful to them for their insights.
I think that your book is a wonderful way to open up the conversation of where do I want to live in the future, and is it possible to stay? You know, I really run into so many people now who sell their home and are upset that they did not get the money that they expected. Now, whether that's based on unrealistic expectations or the fact that maybe they didn't get a very experienced realtor, I don't know. But how would you address that?
Right, that's a difficult one because you're right, they may have wrong expectations. Whatever they've got left after the closing, we need to work with that number. And we need to understand what can they do with that. Many times, people have not invested wisely because they're so conservative. If we look at the most conservative view and you say, okay, if you had your money only in a 3-month treasury bill, and you had it there for 89 years, from 1928 to the end of 2017, it would have made about $2,000. You put in 100, and after 89 years, you have about $2,000. Had you been able to put it in the S&P 500, which is an unmanaged index that you can't directly invest in, and which past returns are not predictive of the future. But the difference is, if you took some risk, that would have been almost $400,000. Not 2,000, 400,000. So part of the problem for the older person who is frightened of the market is not knowing what to do with that money, not knowing where to invest it. Do they buy into a community? Do they find a rent community? What do they do if they're moving someplace else? How do they use that money? And unfortunately, they may not have the education they need. So they need to talk to someone they trust who's wise enough to help them. Because you have to take some risk no matter what age you are.
Can you say a little bit about these 55 and older communities?
Yep. Okay, they're an interesting breed, because what happens with those is you sort of have the benefits of having your own home, but you have a community. So if it's a condo association, people are wonderful, but some are eccentric and difficult to deal with. So you may get somebody on the condo board who says, no, we're not putting money aside for the new roof. I veto that. Excuse me? Oh, no, we're not hiring people to plow. We're going to get out there and shovel. Now, when you're in a condo association and you're trying to vote down a few eccentrics, you're kind of stuck. You know, you've got whatever skills you have in negotiation, but you have a problem. So the age 55 communities have a lot of virtues, and you still have some home ownership feeling, but you don't have what you have in a CCRC, a continuing care retirement community. There is somebody hired as a social worker who takes care of the eccentric and brings the eccentric back into the fold by their skill, because they're trained to do that.
Oh.
You are not trained to do that. You may be gifted, but you're not necessarily trained. So the issue is, the big difference is that in that larger community, you have other people to back you up and to give you help in negotiating the social environment. That's one of the major differences.
And I think so many people's misconceptions about retirement are based on a lack of information and education.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I run into people who say, well, I don't know if I want to go into a retirement community because the monthly fees could go up on me. I could get assessed suddenly for thousands of dollars for a new roof.
That's true.
You know, and there's no children in the area, and I like kids and all that kind of stuff. And so right away it feeds into that notion that it's for people for whom life is over. How do you...
That's bad.
You know, how do you address that?
Yeah. If you go anywhere, your own home, and you think you're going to be cloistered in it and you're going to just be by yourself, or you go to a 55 community, you go to any place. If you think your life is over, I'm going to talk in your ear really loudly and say, no, 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 you cannot do that. Dylan Thomas has a wonderful poem that says, do not go gentle into that good night. Yes, exactly. You know that poem. And the point is, as long as you're alive, it's a blessing. Use it. Make sure that the legacy that you're going to leave is a person who lived life well. That doesn't mean rich. It means somebody who had the courage to make decisions, didn't just shy away from everything that was hard, but somebody who said, life is important. I'm going to make decisions, even if they're wrong. I'm going to be vital. Nobody's going to take away my authority to be a person.
And you know, there are those situations where a person is so attached to their home and they absolutely refuse to consider any other option until something happens to them. Maybe their, you know, their ability, their cognitive ability starts to diminish, etc. And now decisions have to be made for them.
Not good.
Right? So how, like when they read your book, which is such a helpful guidebook, really, I can't say enough about it. What is the time frame? Are you saying to people, when you read the book, you're looking at maybe a timeline of 5 to 10 years of considering what you're going to do? Or do you think it's the kind of thing like, I'm thinking of moving tomorrow?
Yep.
You know, I mean, what is the recommended time frame for planning this?
I think for a lot of people going through the book, they will be able, at the end of reading it and doing the exercises and really doing the financial planning that they need to do, they'll be able within a year to make the decision, because it's both a decision to move, downsize the house, get rid of the things that they have to get rid of, and then find a place they want to move to. So I don't think more than a year for the people who are saying, yeah, I can do this. For the person who has a spouse who is pulling in a different direction, it takes a little longer. And my answer is, well, there are techniques for helping that couple move forward. So that may take a little longer. Then I would say we're looking at a 3 to 5 year frame. But I would like people to say, in the end of that 5-year frame, I understand what I'm going to do and why.
Now, you have so much extensive experience in investment planning, financial planning.
Right.
Why did you decide to write a book almost exclusively focusing on the financial aspect of a home?
Because a lot of people, when they do the financial plan, my colleagues, when they do a financial plan, look at the house in a way that I do not look at it. I do not see it as an asset, because I need to work with assets that actually buy the bread and do all those, put gas in the car. And when they look at the house, they say, oh, well, there's this big asset. My answer is, no, it's a money grabber, because the house is going to keep demanding repairs and maintenance. So you've got to really understand that that's not an up, it's a down. So think about the money you have here, work with that, and then say, the house is an expense to me. It may have value, but it's only going to have value if I sell it at the right time. Otherwise, it's simply a drain. Mm-hmm. Love it, you may.
And in the little time that we have left, tell us how we can buy your book.
Oh, thank you. Barnes & Noble and the Amazon, of course, have it. I don't know that it's in bookstores yet. Hopefully it will be at some point. But certainly they can go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
Do you have a website, Penelope?
I do. wealthychoices.com. And you'll see a little bit more about the book there and a little bit more about who this person is that you're talking with. And
you were very clear in the very beginning of our show that LPL Financial is separate from Wealthy Choices.
That's correct.
Could you talk just a little bit about that?
LPL Financial is the largest independent broker-dealer in the country, and it provides me the opportunity to have all kinds of investments at my fingertips, and they do tons of research for us. So that when I'm talking to a client and helping them create a portfolio, they've done the work for me. They've done a tremendous amount of work. It's not prescriptive, it's simply available.
Yes.
So they've done that. But when we think about the advisory role, they are not Wealthy Choices, so it's always a question of their being separate. It's Wealthy Choices that is in all 50 states and through LPL, so that I can offer services all over the country, which is unusual.
Well, I have to say, I met Penelope at the Milton Public Library book fair where she was a featured author, and I read her book, and I really hope that many pick it up from Amazon or Barnes & Noble, because it is such a resource in helping someone decide whether they should stay or whether they should go, sell or stay. And also, I just want to make sure that you have the spelling of Penelope's last name, Tzougros, which is Tzougros.
Well done.
And you can find out more about her at wealthychoices.com. Thank you for joining us today on It's All Right with Suzette, and we'll see you the next time. In the meantime, happy reading.